Hi guys, it's another episode of Tobacco Chidera. It's a beautiful day, it's sunny out here, and I cannot wait to show you guys the things I've been doing over the weekend. But before then, I want to talk about something really important, and that is domestic violence. Yeah, it's a topic that whenever it crosses my mind, I get sad literally because lots of people suffer from domestic violence and say nothing about it. Everyone is so mute, so quiet. We don't talk about domestic violence because we don't want to be seen as failures. But it's time to talk about these things. It's time to talk about the things that give us sleepless nights because some people cannot go back to their homes. Some people cannot go back for fear of what awaits them when they get back home. And now today, talking about domestic violence, I'm going to be talking about domestic violence in relationships. In relationships basically. Domestic violence is that tiny distraction that is left to fester until it becomes a disease. It's very little, it's that little, and then it begins to grow, and you're saying, I can manage this, I'm not sure he's that person, you're making excuses for someone, until it blows up in your face, until you see yourself in the hospital, and then you join the march for domestic violence. Yes, so domestic violence can be both ways. Nobody is exempted from domestic violence. Both men and women have been violated and are still violated on a daily basis. So I'm going to be talking about the different kinds of domestic violence, the causes of domestic violence, and the effects of domestic violence, as well as the ways of ending domestic violence. Sit tight as I take you on this journey through domestic violence. Okay, yeah, so domestic violence, we have the physical violence, we have the psychological violence, and we have the emotional violence. I got you there. Emotional, psychological. What does it really mean? They're, very thin line that separates these two things, but they actually do exist. Now, when you talk about psychological violence, if you make me feel less of a person, if you make a person who you are in a relationship with feel less of a person, that is affecting them, that it begins to affect their self-esteem, it begins to affect who they are and how they see themselves, even with you or without you. It's a problem. It's psychological. You don't tell me that I cannot have a conversation with you because I am not of the same because I'm not of the same grade with you, or because you think you're better than me. Lots of women have these problems. Lots of women have ideas they want to share with you, they want to share with their man or their friends, but they can't because of the fear of being rejected, of the fear of being shut down. You literally shut them down and don't let them talk about these things or let them express their views, and it affects their self-esteem. They feel like they're not better than any other person. They feel like everyone is better than them. It affects their self-esteem. That is psychological. It affects them until it gets to the point where they can no longer find themselves. Now, I'll talk about the physical violence, which is the more rampant one we see today. Men also get battered. You know that, right? So don't think it's only women who get battered. So don't say, oh, domestic violence is nothing. Men also get battered. So the minute you lend your voice to it, the minute you start talking about domestic violence and understanding that this thing is here, we will be doing ourselves a lot of favor. Now, one of the leading causes of domestic violence is unresolved anger issues. Never go to bed angry with your spouse or whatever. Sit down and discuss, trash it out. You are both adults and these things happen to adults, so trash it out. Talk about things like matured people. You don't have to nag, you don't have to shout. And ladies, when he's shouting, I don't expect you to shout as well. You could get tempted to shout, but you cannot have two mad people in the same house. One person has to be the voice of reasoning. You don't have to raise your voice at him the same time he's raising his voice at you. You do not need to do all of this and then push people to the point where they cannot take it anymore, and then resort to violence. You don't have to be physical with each other. Some other people see it as a family thing. Oh, my mother used to beat my father used to beat my mother, so it's the right thing to do. When a woman does something wrong, you need to correct her. Yes, you need to correct her, but you don't need to correct her that way. Some people would even go as far as quoting the Bible and saying, spare the rod and spoil the child. Well, that is the Bible talking about your child, not talking about me. We are adults. I'm not a baby anymore. So you're not sparing the rod with me or spoiling me we're having conversation like two adults. Don't think because your father used to beat your mother, because your mother used to abuse your father, whether psychologically or physically or emotionally, think that's the right thing to do. It is not the right thing to do. Now, people do it as a way to escape a perceived bad relationship. You feel like, okay, because she has this strong thing against violence, if I hit her, she will leave. You could just live peacefully and quietly without making a fuse. You could tell her or him that you don't think you guys are still compatible or compatible enough to be in this relationship, and you need to end it peacefully. I mean, capiche? You guys leave. Now, there are ways of avoiding domestic violence. And one of those ways is to treat people the way you would want them to treat you. If you want people to treat you right, then you learn how to treat people right. You can't treat people like trash and expect them to treat you like a queen or a king that you are. No, you treat people right and they will treat you right. Now remember that everyone has a breaking point. I hear people say things like, oh, I have never seen him so mad. Do you have to wait until you see him so mad before you realize that you need to do the right thing, or you need to start doing the right thing? You can't push people. You can't make them feel so terrible about themselves and wait until they explode in your face before you know that you're doing the wrong thing. Now, one other thing people try to do is they say, oh, I cannot say sorry to him. I cannot say sorry to her. That would belittle me. Some people need to understand that it's a simple sorry that can save you a lifetime on crutches, a lifetime on wheelchair, a lifetime thinking and wishing you never actually met this person who has made you be this way. It's a simple sorry. We have those magic words, sorry, thank you, what's like that. You could just say sorry and walk away. Say sorry and shut your mouth up. You don't have to respond to everything that people say to you. You don't have to lock him up in a shed and say you're not leaving this house until you do this. When you push people to that point, they will have no other. I'm not making excuses for people. I am saying do not give people any reason to hit you. Now, don't forget that you are what's more to your family, your friends, your kids, and every other person around you, even the society alive. I wouldn't want to come for your burial. You wouldn't want to come for my burial. So why make excuses for people? Why say, oh, he wasn't like this or she wasn't like this? This might be what the problem is. Stop making excuses for people. A violent person is a violent person. Will never change. And so the earlier you realize that, the better for you. Don't make excuses for people. If you have tried to talk about this thing and it is not working out, then my dear, you need to walk away. Whatever threatens your peace of mind is not worth the stress. And don't forget that people never actually change. They could tell you they have changed, but they haven't. So he's begging you today because he wants to come back to you. Doesn't mean that he has changed. Love yourself enough to look beyond the surface. Love is never enough. Look beyond the surface. Look beyond the tiny things that he does. How he reacts when he tells you about what someone has done to him outside, how she reacts when she tells you about her friends. Does she want to do, does she feel like she should kill them? Does he feel like, oh, he could strangle them? Those are things that you need to look at. I'm not saying that people cannot have honest intentions. I'm not saying that people cannot just vent out their anger. I am saying that you should look beyond your love for this person. Hey, yeah, I know you guys have been feeling manual artwork. I did this over the weekend. I try to play myself a bit. You should do it as well. Loosen up, and don't forget that nothing is ever worth your peace of mind. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Chidera Chikwe, and on Instagram it is a Talk Back with Chidera. Peace. Stay safe.